I was just having a really interesting conversation with one of my friends about the notion of structuring your day. And I think Leila Hormozi, we were talking about how Leila Hormozi had specifically said that she builds her day around her energy flows and doesn't make certain decisions after 3 p.m. And so my friend and I were talking about this idea of like, how do you do that, and what's the best way to do that? Why would you do that? Things like working out in the morning versus the evening. When do you do your best focused work? When do you do your chores and your tasks? And maybe that's a weekly cadence, but like in the daily cadence, for me, for example, I do, my focused work in the afternoons lately. I'm not a 6 a.m. kind of person. It's it's late. It's after midnight right now, and I'm recording a video because I didn't do it earlier today. And we talked about this notion of being forgiving of yourself and not beating yourself up for not doing certain things at a certain time because a successful person is up, early bird gets the worm, and you're working out first thing in the morning and getting everything, checking emails, done by 7 a.m. and then you're working by 8 a.m. and then you work for 8 hours, and you go home and you have dinner with your family and then you work for 3 or 4 more hours. Like, there was this template, this prototypical sort of expectation of a person's time in the corporate world, for sure, that meant you were successful or that you were doing something right. And so when I say forgiving, being forgiving, that you're not adhering to what I think society conditioned a lot of us to deem the best or most effective, most efficient, most productive, or successful structure for a day. Be forgiving of yourself for not living that exact lifestyle. Because what's the point, anyways? Are you trying to spend the most hours of your day doing work? Then, yeah, maybe sure that works for you. But if you're trying to maximize income, you might do it differently. If you're trying to balance family time with work time, you might do it differently. If you're trying to find your most creative self every day, you might do it differently. If you're trying to find deep, focused, productive work for 1 hour a day, you would probably do it differently. And I brought up Naval saying, live like a lion. And I think he was referring more to doing projects in life, as in lions will work, or lions will appear lazy and lethargic because they don't do anything for long periods of time, and then they hunt. It's an aggressive time, and they're very active, but they acquire meals and they feed themselves for whatever period of time, and then they're lazy again. So like, live like a lion means like you give yourself permission to do projects for a short period of time and then do nothing for a period of time in your life. I apply that to the daily cadence as well, where you're allowed to, and I'm allowed to. I'm giving myself permission to live my day like a lion. And today, for example, I got up and I showered and got dressed and all that stuff, and I had breakfast, and my brain was just like, I need to not do anything. And so I just sat outside for like an hour and I did nothing, like not on my phone, no music. Like, I just sat there, and my brain needed it. But then I got 4 or 5 hours of productive work done after that, you know? And I used to feel really guilty for not giving myself, or sorry, I used to feel really guilty for not earning my rest. But I'm trying to see it more as like, rest is part of the productive work time, and it's a positive part of it, by the way. I started all this by saying, that my friend and I were having this conversation about building your days around that. And I think it's just a really interesting mindset shift. And if you're somebody who's been in corporate for a very long time and you've worked a full-time job for most of your adult life, if not all of it, like, it's going to be a difficult concept to grasp. And even if you believe it, it's going to be a difficult concept to implement. It's because it's such a change for your brain and the way you view productivity and work. Like, we've been taught that time is such a critical factor in productivity. You know, you have to work 8 hours a day, or you have to put in your time to earn your paycheck. That's the corporate, that's the employee sort of mindset, that you have to exchange time for money. And if you're trying to do a side, if you're starting a side business, or if you know you're curious about AI and how productivity is changing because of AI, if you're new to the workforce and haven't worked a 40-hour work week, like, there's lots of different mentalities that are coming at this particular juncture. There's a lot of different mentalities that are coming at challenging the notion of trading time for money. Like, trading time for money is becoming a relic. Like, it's becoming a thing of the past because of the tools that we have now, right? Like, we're already seeing it with AI in different companies, but it's coming to the individual level as well. Like, you at home can use AI to help you with like your cooking and your organizing and your shopping lists, and even your parenting and researching what are the best shoes for my kid, or where can I get the healthiest groceries for my family. Like, AI is going to touch all those things. So it's not just, how do I get the most work done at my job. Point being, it's a bit of a change, right? It's a bit of a change to think other than in terms of time for money. And how do you do that? This is one of the things that you have to think about, right? Like, it's how do you maximize yourself? How do you maximize your own productivity, not invest the most time? How do you maximize your output in the most efficient manner? Because that's kind of what the game is becoming. It's becoming about efficiency. Like, AI is forcing us to become more efficient, because you can no longer, I don't think in 20 years you'll be able to survive doing mundane tasks slowly for 8 hours a day and just expect that you're going to be paid for your time, because AI or somebody using AI will have come along, or will come along, and find more efficient ways to do things. So you as a person, you are going to be pushed and challenged also to find ways to maximize how to use your own energy, your own productivity. And I think that applies to like creativity. How do you maximize and capture whatever it is that you creatively produce and generate? So maybe I don't maybe we don't need to go entirely down all those pathways of like, there's creative output, and then there's physical output, and there's mental output, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how, like, there's different ways that you could chop that one up. But point being, it's something to think about, and I'm not a master of it. I'm definitely learning it myself. Like I said, I sat outside today because I needed to, and I'm still 8 years basically. We're done a couple years in corporate, but 8 years out of corporate, and my mind is still adjusting to some of these types of concepts, that you're allowed to work differently, and you're allowed to rest differently, and give yourself permission to produce differently in different ways. And if you haven't already, you must challenge yourself to consider how can you maximize and if make and maximize and find efficient maximization of your output. It's not really a word.